Hey there, YouTube. It's me, the Gothic Rose, also known as Rose, Roseanne. I answer to all of them. And I have been talking the haunted history of Hollywood, as well as the hot mess of Hollywood. And I'm taking ghosts from Hollywood past and really comparing them to all of the blind items that are out there today. And I'm just finding out so much from the Gilded Age, 1908, to Thomas Edison patenting all of the oldest movie equipment to the point where no one could get it unless they were in his little group, the MPPC, the Motion Pictures Patent Company, which disbanded by 1915, which at this point, silent films were well underway. And obviously, we've gone from silent films with live music accompaniment to CGI in movies. And it's just a really interesting history. And I've also discovered the first political Hollywood link between D.W. Griffith and Woodrow Wilson. And D.W. Griffith had a premiere for the movie The Birth of a Nation at the White House. And at the time, it was said that Woodrow Wilson thought the film was amazing, but he later wrote in a letter regretting having anything to do with it. And he said that he wished it was never made because it was so divisive and it was so racist towards the African American community, to the point where the NAACP was protesting this movie. But then 5 years later, along comes Oscar Micheaux, who had written the book in 1917, The Homesteader. By 1919, he created his first silent film with very limited budget, and he was the first African American pioneer of silent films. And some of his films still exist. And at the end of October of this year, you can get tickets to the Oscar Micheaux Film Festival in Los Angeles. So it's really interesting because I'm talking about and I'm thinking about all of the scandals. Specifically, I have been talking about It Ends With Us, Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, Justin Baldoni, and we just found out about the Van Zandt Inc. that tried to slip a quiet lawsuit into New York, and it was pulled away. That they did this in September of 2024, and it was pulled away. It was dropped in December of 2024, right before the Justin Baldoni whole complaint was dropped. And at that point, he was dropped by WME, and there were all these different things. Now, the scandal has gone off the rails, because now there are, well, Blake Lively likes to call them mommy sleuths. She's a mom too. But there's internet sleuths that are really into finding out facts, you know? So I'm looking into the fact that there were absolutely scandals in the golden age of film, but they were so much more carefully crafted than these ones that have gone off the rails. Now, I know it's difficult in the technological age, screenshots, websites, we can find out all of the information for ourselves, and it's not illegal to put those things out there. But I'm just thinking about how so many scandals were turned into something artistic, leading so many of these actors and actresses into icon status. So, the Gilded Age, the late 19th century, it was marked by economic growth, opulence, and industrial innovation. And of course, this is the era, for some reason, Donald Trump is trying to bring us back to, which doesn't make any sense. Why would you want to go backwards? You would want to go forwards and then bring that innovation and create jobs here in a newer way, not go backwards. I don't know. I don't get it. Maybe I'm just like, you know, out of my mind. But this era laid the groundwork for the rise of mass entertainment, leading to early cinema in the early 19th, in the early 20th century, so the early 1900s. So by the 1920s, Hollywood's golden age emerged, bringing glamorous movie stars and studio dominance and unprecedented influence on culture. So during the Hollywood's golden age, scandals were meticulously controlled to protect a star's public image. Studios like MGM employed fixers to clean up messes, create sympathetic narratives, and ensure the audience's forgiveness. Stars involved in controversies were often reframed as misunderstood or tragic figures, a formula that elevated their fame and preserved their iconic status. So, this is what I was talking about. There is a literal formula. And I said that I believed that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds came in and they were on a high road. They were right at the top. And they tried to rewrite this formula. And instead of coming across with their public image being something that, you know, matches what they want everyone to believe, I lived in the same town with them. I know for a fact that Blake Lively was in the local market and some teenagers that worked in the store had, they fangirled out and she got upset and called the market. She called the market and she complained that these kids were fangirling over her, which doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, you would want people to say, oh my God, Blake Lively was in the store, but she got angry. And then she had my TikTok account, you know, I think it was under review for like 3 months when she hired that ex CIA agent to do her crisis control. Interesting that none of the studios are doing this crisis control now. And that's what got people into so much trouble in this. Melissa Nathan, crisis PR person. Why is that a bad thing, right? Why is it a bad thing to hire a crisis PR person? Because what happened was in old Hollywood, the studios would step in to control the images. No matter who it was, one person would probably get paid off and walk away quietly, and the other people would get their fame and the sympathy from the public. But that's not what happened with Blake Lively because, and a lot of people are saying it, that she's just using the Me Too movement. And I said that I thought she bulldozed over domestic violence, which she absolutely did. She said it a bunch of times. It ends with us. It's not a movie about domestic violence, but it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be. And then someone named Poet's Wife went on to my TikTok and said the same thing. It's not a movie about domestic violence. And this whole thing is about being fair. Well, being fair is not calling your co-star a predator via your husband who says, no, that's within my First Amendment rights because I really believe it. No, that's not how the First Amendment works. It doesn't cover actual malice. It doesn't cover slander and libel. It really doesn't. So this is what I'm saying. They had these fixers. So, like, in the beginning, when Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively got together, everyone knows that she was with, I believe it was Penn Badgley, and Ryan Reynolds was married to Scarlett Johansson. Now, somehow the public went on to forgive Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively for this affair because they probably listened to the studios, they listened to their crisis PR people, they did the right things until this lawsuit. So the thing is, both Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks, as well as Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, they crafted their image, right? They crafted this fairy tale image that everyone bought. It's like it was real love, it was real love. But now people are dissecting a lot of Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively's public Twitter posts to each other and the roasting as something more, not so much like a loving thing, but something more like, maybe like they're taking things out on each other. You know, maybe this is like just some pent up aggression and they take it out on each other publicly and people are like, wow, this is so cute. because both of these couples, Pickford Fairbanks, Lively Reynolds, embody the epitome of Hollywood's power couples in their respective eras. And there really hasn't been a power couple rising up in a long time, except for Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. But Pickford and Fairbanks were trailblazers of early cinema, and they founded United Artists, and they enjoyed global adoration. But Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are really these stars. What they're doing is they're leveraging their status, their celebrity status, with these philanthropic efforts and creative ventures, but for some reason, it's not working for them because Pickford and Fairbanks relied on the studio control to maintain their status. But Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively are navigating their scandals like they're either having their team or their bots or all of these things jump in for them, or sometimes I believe it is the celebrity themselves who is jumping in and trying to defend themselves, and people are picking up on it. I picked up on it. And they're not really allowing us to, make up our own minds based on what they should be crafting with their image. They're literally like showing us all their cards. They're showing us who they are, and people are not liking it. They're showing us who they are by saying rude things in interviews or being rude to reporters in interviews. And that's what people are picking up on, and that's what people don't like. What Justin Baldoni did with hiring a crisis PR person was really there to help him navigate how not to make a fool out of himself as well, with fighting back. And his lawyers are doing a brilliant job at all of it. And, you know, you think about the fact that Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively had an affair, and so did Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks, but they went on to create Pickfair, which became a cultural center for all of their, a A-list friends and filmmakers and directors, producers back in the day. They created a cultural center. They created films that were pioneering in the industry and literally helped create Hollywood as we know it today, including the Academy Awards. Now, with the use of CGI and AI, and all of these special effects that you can do with movies, especially in movies like Deadpool or any of, the superhero movies. Why are we not looking at those people as trailblazers as well? And that's because AI and CGI, although it's cool with graphics and visually, is also taking over certain jobs. So it's making the industry more money because they have less people to pay. Although we know in Deadpool 2 they should have used AI or CGI for that motorcycle stunt, but instead they had Joy Harris, unfortunately unprepared and without a helmet, do a stunt that she was not prepared for fully. And this has been stated over and over again in Reddit chats. So the film industry, although we know that there have been major issues in movies like, I'll get to this, but The Wizard of Oz, the treatment of the actors who played the Munchkins, the treatment of Judy Garland, the fact that there is the conspiracy theory, which I tend to lean towards believing, of the possible body that fell, let's say, from a set and it looks like it's swinging, right? But in other versions of this movie, they have put in some sort of a crane, like CGI'd in a crane. It was a crane. Why was there a crane on the set of The Wizard of Oz? Oh, right, there wasn't. Because I'm from like old Earth, if you guys believe in timeline shifts, and I have seen older versions of that movie with the swing. So it's interesting to me how there are scandals. We are uncovering them, but no matter what, unless they were really terrible, like Fatty Arbuckle, who we will get to, Charlie Chaplin has lots of skeletons in the closet. They've still been able to, through studio control, maintain some sort of iconic status as a filmmaker or an actor and have their work be celebrated. But at the same time, we also know now, 100 years later plus, that there is some tainting to their image. So, we can learn to separate the art from the artist, right? Sometimes if they're not perfect, but they created a good piece of art. And sometimes it's too difficult to get past that. What I want to know is like, what's the litmus test? Like, what is your breaking point out there that says to you, I am no longer supporting this person? So for me, the entire reason I got really involved with the It Ends With Us case is because the book and the movie were about domestic violence, and I am an advocate for it. I will show you right here. I can't find my book. Here it is. This is Piece Over Pieces, anthology book by survivors of abuse. This was put together by Clara Baldwin, who is the head of the Piece Over Pieces organization. You can find pieceoverpieces.org, which will send you to the Amazon link for this book. It's $18. And all of the proceeds go to Piece Over Pieces. I donated a portion of my story to this book, so I did not receive any funds for telling my story. All of the proceeds go to help current people going through DV situations find a way out, a little bit of financial help. There's also merch on the pieceoverpieces.org website, so you can get yourself something. Again, 100% of the proceeds goes to the organization. Now, I do know that Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer wanted to donate 1% of the proceeds to, I cannot remember the name of the charity, which was a wonderful thing to do until it was turned into a rom-com giant mess by Blake Lively, who really just bulldozed over the entire subject matter and made it about florals and girlfriends. So that's really why I got involved in this whole case and what got me started on the haunted history of Hollywood and the hot mess of Hollywood, and starting to bring them together and have them overlap, because there are so many similarities between old Hollywood versus new Hollywood. But new Hollywood cannot hold a candle to the class and elegance of old Hollywood. And that really is including how the actors just went about their whole public image. Like, my thing is, I think that celebrities should act more like royalty with all of their privilege. Never complain, never explain. And if you're going to sue, either a company or a union or a movie studio, it's for the betterment of the industry, not for your personal benefit to prove that you're right or wrong. So, in the case of Olivia de Havilland, who sued the studios because she did not want a 7-year contract to extend beyond 7 calendar years in case they got like suspended for 8 months, then the contract would stop for 8 months and it would continue on after their suspension. So Olivia de Havilland fought for a full 7 calendar year contract, and you were out. They couldn't hold you for 10 to 12 years while you didn't make money if they wanted to, let's say, punish you for something. So it's very interesting history. And, little by little, actors have taken more and more creative control and personal control over their image. But I truly believe that, like I said, never complain, never explain, and let your PR people run your social media. Just stay away. It's so much better to have someone carefully craft your videos for you to keep your image up rather than us just seeing you as you are. I know that social media, especially TikTok, is all about authenticity, but unless you've authentically shown us yourself publicly off the red carpet, I think that your image should be much more carefully crafted by your PR people. That is just my opinion of old Hollywood versus new Hollywood, because I feel like if you want all of this power and privilege and prestige, you should act the part 24/7. And that is where I'm going to end it, you guys. This is the haunted hot mess of Hollywood history. And I have just brought the two together. So if you want to catch up, you can go all the way back to Joy Harris. You can go all the way back to the blind items about Ryan Reynolds' movie Waiting. There's some yachting in there. You can check out some royal gossip and just more about the Gilded Age and all of the silent films. I'm slowly working my way up. I am obsessed with Hollywood history. So I am taking any little bit of information I can and making a whole new podcast about it. But you guys, thank you so much for joining me here in the den. If you do like this kind of content, please like, subscribe, comment, and don't forget to hit that bell. I am the Gothic Rose. Peace out, rock on, love, peace, and hair grease.